We are starting things off with Waterlogged. This is a game jam game that was submitted by the developer, which unfortunately I can't find the link to on itch, but I'm sure they are watching and they'll provide one down below. This was a kind of simple game where you need to climb procedurally generated areas, collecting as many coins for points as you can, while of course the water is slowly but surely coming up behind you. Reach the exit and you are out. This is one of those games that I like the general basic gameplay of it. My one issue is that because of the procedural generated nature of it, you can go up one side and realize, hey, the exit's on the other side, and there's no way to get back in time. But I think this is a delightful concept for a game, and there surprisingly are a lot of games named Waterlogged on itch and other sites. We now have Dungeon Deathball. This is a combination of Into the Breach meets Blood Bowl. We play as human survivors who are trying to escape from an evil dungeon, and the only way we're going to do that is by playing a very violent version of football. You'll build your team out of various characters, and your goal in each stage is to get the ball to the goal. And you can do that by either taking a character and running to it, passing the ball, but of course you need to deal with all the enemies, traps, and more along the way. Similar to Into the Breach, you are given each turn a complete breakdown of what is going to happen in terms of enemies, traps, and whatnot. And it's up to you to use that knowledge to the best of your ability, pushing enemies into the attack range of other things, pushing them into traps, and doing what you can to make use of your character's stamina. As stamina will need to be recharged, and you'll need to be mindful of passing and shooting the ball to get it to that goal. This is one of those games that can be a little tricky to learn, and it is again similar to Into the Breach, where make one mistake and that character could end up dying and costing you a lot of time. Now the game does allow you to undo and even restart once per level, and there's certainly some charm here. If you're a fan of kind of Into the Breach's tactical strategy puzzle design, and you're looking for something a little bit more sporty, then I would recommend at least giving a check to Dungeon Deathball. We now have Abriss. Please note the footage you're seeing is taken from early access and may not represent the current version of it. For this one, we are doing demolition puzzle solving, where it's your job to use the power of physics, lots of explosives, and heavy objects in order to destroy all the targets and structures in each level. This is very similar to that of games like Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, that one kind of puzzle vehicle simulator whose name escapes me right now, where you'll have to make use of the various parts and use them to solve the challenges. Now, unlike those games, this is not, I would say, in the sandbox territory, at least from the levels that we played. Each level gives you a fixed number of parts that you see on the left-hand side, and it's up to you to figure out how to use them in order to complete the task. Now, you are graded on how efficient you are, and as the game goes on, you are given far more parts, and you really get to see kind of the craziness of the physics that are at play here. And I was getting into this one. Now, it can be on the challenging side once you start learning how physics and the objects are going to interact. And some of the layer levels will require you to get a little bit more advanced in terms of setting up how things are rotating, attached, and so on. But if you are looking for a game that's about strategically thinking about destruction, I would check out Abriss. And with that said, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, we have 3 more games for this showcase. If you're interested in my thoughts on design, then be sure to check out my game design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 essential games to study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with more coming soon. Now up is Cat Cafe Manager. This is a kind of management sim meets low stakes game, where you have moved into a new town and you are on the quest to build the best cat cafe one could find. The cats come from all varieties, and there may also be some magic and a cat god going on as well. As per management sim rules, you'll start out with a decrepit building, and it's up to you to renovate, build up, and of course, find cats for your cat cafe. Each kind of person will come in and they'll be looking for specific kinds of cats and needs as well. Fulfill them and you'll gain different resources, with each resource type is used to essentially give you or service some aspect of your town or what you're going to need to build up. If you're looking for an incredibly hard or challenging management sim, Cat Cafe Manager is probably not going to be the game for you, but it is definitely high up on the charm meter in terms of the aesthetic and what we're seeing here. And I would say if you're looking for another cozy game to enjoy, then this is definitely one to check out, unless of course you're either a dog lover or you're severely allergic to cats. Now we have Map of Materials. This is a kind of CRPG survival crafter. You are stranded on a deserted island. There are strange things all around you, and you're going to have to fight, craft, and get food and resources in order to survive. The general look and charm of this game definitely evokes kind of like early 2000s or late 90s CRPGs. You'll have to scavenge for resources, try to figure out what is going on, and get into fights with a lot of animals that are very, very angry with you. Now, for me, this one is definitely kind of like before my time, as someone who didn't really get into a lot of the CRPGs of the 90s and early 2000s. But there's definitely a charm to this one in terms of powering up, finding and crafting new gear, and of course doing more and more in the area. If you're hoping for like a massive game in terms of this aesthetic, then Map of Materials will do it for you. But if you're looking for something that's kind of like a more modernized CRPG, then this one may be a little bit too old school in that regard. But I will definitely say that there is a lot of charm here for fans of kind of that, again, 2000s era of CRPG goodness. And for the last game of our showcase, it is Catie in Meowmeowland. This is a point-and-click adventure in kind of a similar style as stuff like Machinarium and the other Amanita games, which I'm pretty sure I just butchered their name. Each screen is basically a collection of puzzles that you will need to solve in order to get Catie to move from point A to point B. The visual design is definitely like a children's fever dream aesthetic of a wacky assortment of characters and things to interact with. Now, as a point-and-click adventure game, of course, each puzzle has a fixed solution to it, and you'll have to make use of the weird logic of Meowmeowland in order to figure out how to solve things. Like a lot of the other absurd or unusual adventure games, you're going to have to just kind of click on things and try and figure out, apple to banana to anvil to cat, and maybe you'll solve the puzzle. But I love the aesthetic of this game. It has a really interesting look to it, and it's still not as on the overly complicated side as some of the other point-and-click adventure games we've played. If you're looking for one that's a little bit weird and a little odd to play, then Catie in Meowmeowland is definitely one to check out. And with that said, we're going to end our showcase. Thank you so much for watching. You'll find links to all the games down below. Let me tackle your game for a future piece. Please reach out. Do the bell ringing, subscribing, and all that people tell you to do. Check out our Discord and Patreon, and come back for daily sessions on game design here, and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games.